Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Appreciate you for hanging out for a little bit. This is my top 25 films of the 1990s. The 90s had some great films, and some of my favorite films of all time come out of this decade. Of course, I'm a little biased. I grew up around this time, but a lot of great movies that can't be ignored came out from 1990 all the way to 99, and I couldn't just stop at 10. For some reason, 10 became a top 15 list, and before I knew it, there were 25 movies that I wanted to sort of touch on. So I'm going to leave it at that. I think 25 is good enough. So I could probably go even higher, to be honest. The 90s was so jam-packed with great movies every year for those years that I could really probably, if I wanted to, make a top 100 movies of the 90s. But got to start off little, because you can only do so much in one of these videos, and plus people get bored after the first 15 minutes anyway. So, or a lot of cases, 2 minutes. So, gonna try and keep this one as brief as I can, considering I'm talking about 25 movies. So, number 25, Dazed and Confused. This film came out in 1993. It is an independent comedy directed by Richard Linklater. You have a young Matthew McConaughey, Ben Affleck, Parker Posey, Joey Lauren Adams, Mila Jovovich, and everyone is at the beginning of their careers, so nobody has a persona yet, and nobody is trying to do something that they fall back on. They're just playing characters and doing a good job, just being sort of funny, having a good time. It takes place in the 70s, so it really does have this really awesome 70s vibe, unlike a lot of movies that will take you out of it a little bit because maybe there's something that isn't quite right. This one, pretty much everything is on point, even down to the hair. I really like how even everyone's hair is very 70s in this movie. And great 70s soundtrack, and all around really good coming of age story as well. And just a good sort of hanging out, sort of just kind of a chill afternoon movie that you can watch with a little group of friends, and uh, you know maybe maybe have a puff or two and enjoy. It is a stoner comedy after all. So, Dazed and Confused, that's my number 25. My number 24, what do you know? It just so happens to be another stoner comedy. It was the 90s. It was full of them that decade. And this is one of the best ones. Friday, director F. Gary Gray. Went on to direct a lot of great movies. The Negotiator, uh, Straight Outta Compton from 2015. And this is when Ice Cube began doing more comedies. I think that later on he realized he really had sort of a niche for being in comedies. And the Friday movies, for the most part, I think put him on that path. But the first Friday movie is one of the best comedies of the 1990s, and had to make my list because it's one of those movies that I rewatched so much and wore out the VHS tape, and now I'm wearing out the disc. So, yeah, I love this film. It's hilarious. Chris Tucker is funny all throughout the movie. Every scene he's in pretty much steals the movie for the most part. But with all the other actors that add so much hilarious moments to the film, actors like Bernie Mac and John Witherspoon, may they both rest in peace. Yeah, that's the thing about watching this film is get a little sad watching the scenes with them every now and then when they pop up on screen, but they're so damn funny. Everyone in this movie is so damn funny, and love the feel of the movie. The whole movie takes place in one day, and by the time you get to the third act of the film, um, the story sort of changes up a bit and becomes a little more, instead of just being like a day in the life kind of thing later on. Well, that's what it is for the whole movie, but by the time you get to the third act, there's something that happens that sort of raises the stakes for our two main characters, and so it becomes like a life and death situation, and what's pretty much just kind of a, like I said, a day in the life, in the neighborhood kind of comedy. So this movie I enjoy every time I come back to it, and is a guilty sort of pleasure, just because I watch it a little too damn much. But I don't care. It's so damn funny. So yeah, Friday, number 24. My number 23, another movie that I rewatch quite often. I have a poster behind me that indicates to everyone just how much I love this movie. Yes, this is The Big Lebowski. Have to watch this whenever they show this at a theater, local theater they have downtown every couple of years. They show this film, and a bunch of people show up in costume, dressed up as Lebowski or the Jesus or whoever their favorite characters are from the movie. And the Coen brothers followed up a great movie with Fargo with another great movie here, and nothing like their the previous movie, nothing like Fargo, and nothing like the movie that they would come out after this movie. You know, all our movies have this different feeling to them, but still have that feeling that they were directed by the Coen brothers. And this definitely goes for sort of a take on uh, detective, a sort of noir detective movie, but of course has that Coen brothers sort of twist. A little bit of, I think, a little bit of Raising Arizona in there, but just a dash of it in terms of the style they were going for. But the dude is one of my favorite funny all-time characters from any comedy. And yeah, Jeff Bridges completely kills it in this part. He's iconic in the part of the dude. All around great supporting cast with John Goodman, Steve Buscemi. Sam Elliott is really awesome whenever he pops up. Love his narration. And yeah, John Turturro, of course, as the Jesus. So many great things to love about this movie. And it's a movie that anybody ever wants to check it out. I see it on streaming all the time. But yeah, The Big Lebowski, it is a cult classic. And it is a 90s classic for sure. So, and one of my favorite Coen Brothers films. Let's see. Number 25, 24, 23, 22. The Crow. This was directed by Alex Poyas, released in 1994, I believe. And yeah, unfortunately, in 1993, we got the sad news that Brandon Lee had passed away on the set of this film due to the accident, the freak accident, I guess. But, you know, we'll never know, I guess. But yeah, they had to finish the movie without him. So it's amazing that this movie turned out as great as it did because for me, it's really seamless. I honestly don't know when. I mean, I guess it could be whenever there's a shot where they don't show his face, which there are quite a few of those shots. But the movie is just so well directed that it's really hard to tell where the doubles are, where this, you know, where they use the stand-ins and stuff like that. But love the story about someone, you know, being murdered and coming back from the grave for revenge, to avenge his wife, and the sort of it happened on Halloween night kind of theme. You know, Halloween is my favorite holiday, so the story of the Crow, the character of the Crow, the style of the film, it really reminded me of just the world in and of itself reminded me of Tim Burton's Gotham City. And the soundtrack of the movie is amazing. So many things to love about this movie. It is a 90s classic for sure. The action is great. The the movie has such a great soul to it because of uh, not just the soundtrack and the way it was made, but even the performance of Brandon Lee. All adds to this one-of-a-kind movie experience that is Alex Poyas' film The Crow. So yeah, that is my number 22. Yeah, that's right. Please check that out. It's one of those movies that it is on streaming services. 21. Quentin Tarantino's first film, Reservoir Dogs, an amazing film. First time I watched this movie, I was too young to watch this movie, but I was already getting all screwed up from the horror movies and a lot of the gangster movies I was watching. And yeah, it was his first movie, so who knew? You know, who knew what kind of a talent we were dealing with? But it was such a refreshing kind of movie back then that really took a lot of people by surprise, especially the fact that it felt like a very small scale film, but still packed a real serious punch. You know, a basic story about a group of guys that pulled off a job that went wrong. But what makes the movie so great is its execution and its performances and just the unorthodox way of the storytelling and the way that he kind of uses this sort of 70s sort of vibe mixed in with uh, just a contemporary sort of style of storytelling for the time. It was just very original, and to this day, Reservoir Dogs is one of my favorite films from Tarantino. Love the cast, one of my favorite casts in all of cinema, with Steve Buscemi and Chris Penn, Harvey Keitel, and Lawrence Tierney, Eddie Bunker, Tim Roth. Everybody was so great. Michael Madsen, and of course, Tarantino himself as Mr. Brown in there. Always has to sort of participate as an actor in some form, which I don't mind because for me it kind of adds to the fun. And yeah, I love Reservoir Dogs. To me, it's one of those movies that is very close to being flawless from beginning to end, and is one of those movies that is a 90s classic, one of the best crime films of that decade. And with that movie, Tarantino let everybody know, I'm here, motherfucker. I'm ready to make some movies. And just, you can't, woo, boy, did he knock it out of the park with his second feature. But yeah, Reservoir Dogs, what a great heist film. A heist film without the heist. So yeah, only so many people could pull something like that off. Number 20, Natural Born Killers from director Oliver Stone, 1994. This movie, once you watch it, you feel like maybe you dropped a little peyote without realizing it. I don't know. But this is one of those one-of-a-kind movie experiences you couldn't get with anybody else with, besides somebody like Oliver Stone. He has a very sort of eclectic style as a director. He'll try something with one movie and then another movie, completely change up his style, but still stay true to the artist that he is. He's a kind of director that won't compromise on a vision, and it's pretty obvious whether you're watching something like Born on the Fourth of July or Platoon or The Doors or a movie like this or U-Turn or the World Trade Center movie that he made a lot later. None of his movies feel like the same movie. This guy has a style that he brings, a different style to each project that he has, and that's one of the things I really love about Oliver Stone. And yeah, this is a Tarantino script, so who knows what Tarantino could have done with this film had he had helmed the film as a director. But given that the film came out as batshit crazy, brilliant as it did, Natural Born Killers just has some of the best fucking over the top moments and performances in any 90s movie. And yeah, Mickey and Mallory, these are two people that if they were around in real life, who knows if this is how it would have been. But the movie depicts it in a way that makes you think if these two people were, really around, would this have been just like the way he depicts? Because a lot of the commentary in the movie is pretty spot on to the way the media depicts and glorifies anyone that gets a little 15 minutes of fame, whether it's for something good or bad. So he really showcases a lot of that sort of hypocrisy in the media. And Oliver Stone is a true artist. Really love him as a director and a storyteller. Love many of his films. A lot of those movies that I mentioned now of his movies from his filmography are movies that are some of my favorite films of all time. So yeah, Natural Born Killers, just a batshit crazy, out of left field kind of movie that you don't expect and is not predictable, which is one of the things that even when you rewatch this movie, um, it takes you by surprise pretty much, just because the way the story sort of unfolds itself, uh, you always sort of expect when you watch a movie for it to end a certain way, for that to have that happy sort of classic happy ending. And in a way, it kind of does, but it's a very sort of demented version of that and doesn't feel like any other movie. I mean, you can watch this movie and still not completely be on the side of the protagonist in this film, yet you still kind of root for them. But though you root for them, you still feel sorry for all their victims. And it's a movie that yeah, I honestly I question whether why I even like it sometimes, just because I'm rooting for maniacs all throughout the movie, yet at the same time I know they're bad guys. Yeah, I'm rooting for these psychopaths, these messed up people. So it's a movie that makes me question, my own, like, shit, am I just as screwed up as these people, or maybe I don't know. But yeah, it's a movie that makes me think, and I like movies like that. So hats off to Oliver Stone for being that kind of a director that pushes the envelope in that regard. So yeah, Natural Born Killers, a hell of a film, one of the best of the '90s. 1994, what a great year for films. Um, Number 19, 1995, another great year for films. Gave us a movie like this, David Fincher's Seven. One of my favorite detective sort of uh, investigation type movies, and this is a serial killer film. David Fincher does the serial killer kind of stories perfectly, in my opinion, as he demonstrates with Seven and Zodiac. He has a style that is just perfect for that kind of story, and showing sort of a darkness in humanity, in sort of what lurks beneath the nice parts of society, good people, what we're really capable of, the dark side of human nature, frankly, and some stuff that is disturbing upon rewatch. These people are depicted as normal people, and for being cops in a movie, the '90s was filled with a lot of sort of cops that, for the most part, felt in the movies, anyways, felt untouchable. And uh, even though you rooted for all these cops in movies, a lot of times they felt like nothing could ever happen to them for the most part. But with Somerset and Mills, these two guys, you felt the stakes. You felt like these guys were in danger all throughout the whole movie. Throughout the whole movie, this movie has a sense of tension, and it doesn't let go all the way until the last frame of the film. And it's one of those movies that it is uh, one of those movies that once you've seen it, you can't unsee it, especially, the what's in the box, what's in the box, you know, uh, once you watch that, it's something you think about, and then you think about, okay, I wonder how long before I think I'm going to sit down and watch this one again, because, yeah, it is a movie that blows me away upon rewatch. No matter how many times I rewatch it, I love Seven. Love it so much. Love how well it's made. I love how well Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt bounce off each other in each scene they're in with each other. This is just the way the story is crafted. Everything about it. I really love this movie. And so yeah, number 19, 95 was another great year. What is this? 18. 1999's The Matrix, the Wachowski brothers. One of their first films. I believe what the first one was Bound, '96. I enjoyed Bound, very good movie. But The Matrix really did something for action movies that sort of happened every 10 years. Like every 10 years, a new action movie would sort of change the course for action movies for that decade. And, Die Hard, when Die Hard came out, all the action movies became sort of a Die Hard-esque kind of film. You had Die Hard on a plane, Die Hard on a train, Die Hard in the mountains. Then, of course, later on, things sort of change up. Uh, Again, here with The Matrix, after The Matrix came out, sort of the big action movie trend was, uh, the wire work thing got really out of hand. And the thing was that it didn't really matter whether people were releasing action movies that took place in the real world or not. The wire work was still really sort of obvious, and filmmakers were throwing out there a lot of Matrix sort of style references in action movies that really didn't require it. So unfortunately, the legacy of this movie can be sort of more on the negative side, even considering how so many people don't really like the sequels and that last one. Not even going to get started with that last one. But nobody can fault the first one. The first Matrix was a one of a kind movie experience. One of those movie experiences that I wish I would have caught in the theaters, but unfortunately I can't say I did. I did watch Matrix 2 and 3 in the theaters. Hmm. But yeah, that first one, yeah, I remember watching it for the first time, renting it, and after I rented it, I remembered about 2 or 3 days later, I was buying it. One of the great sort of knock your socks off, blow your hair back, mindfuck movie experiences that comes along, in a very, you don't get it very often. Last time I think before The Matrix was something like, Total Recall. Maybe to a certain extent, maybe Time Cop, but 94 is Time Cop. But, yeah, Total Recall was the one thing that before The Matrix really sort of did that for me. So yeah, The Matrix, I don't know, what can I say about it? Just great, cyberpunk, kung fu uh, sort of action movie opus that is responsible for so many great, not just memes, and I'm not a fan of that kind of, I don't go on my phone watching that kind of shit all day. So, I don't want these great movies to be remembered for their memes. I want these movies to be remembered for the impact and more so for how good the movies were in and of themselves. And yeah, The Matrix is a movie that should be remembered not just for its great action, but for entertaining you and also making you think about, shit, what if we're in the Matrix? Uh-oh, so yeah, it's always going to be one of those movies that will definitely make me think of the late 90s whenever it pops into my mind. Late 90s, yeah, the game started to change quite a bit with movies like that. Uh, okay, what was it, 18? Number 17. Quentin Tarantino's Jackie Brown. I love Jackie Brown. Can't get enough Jackie Brown. Watch this movie quite a bit. It's one of those movies that I love to watch as a sort of a just whenever I'm hanging out, whether it's with a group of people, friends, family, or just sitting at home having a lazy day. You can just throw this movie on and not even have to watch every scene, but uh, it is that kind of film that being so rewatchable, if you know it like I do, which I know it by heart, even when I didn't know it by heart, I remember not certain parts if I didn't remember what they were. This is the kind of movie that you could take certain things out and it would probably still make sense. Maybe a little too long for some people. Maybe Tarantino was being a little too, um, maybe showing a little too much detail when it came to showing the different perspectives, showing the that last heist scene a couple different times from different perspectives of characters. For some people, might have been redundant, but for me, I enjoy everything the man decides. I mean, like for example, when he decides to come out with the longer movie, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, people complained about how long that movie was. I don't care. The longer, the better, especially if it's somebody like Tarantino or Martin Scorsese or Coppola, a great storyteller. If it works, if it helps to sort of flesh things out, and like in the case of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and like here with Jackie Brown, and even of course when he did The Hateful Eight, yeah, he does some long movies, like Django Unchained. Yeah, he's not afraid to go 2.5 hours, 2:45. But I love a good sort of crime film, whether it's like a Western type of movie that he does, or something like this that came out. This was his third film after Pulp Fiction, and with this film, I think he was trying to show uh, filmmakers and or critics for the most part. I think he was trying to show that he could make an entertaining film, but still show restraint. Because I think a lot of people were shocked by Pulp Fiction for a lot of the sort of scenes in the movie that at the time were considered, shocking, like the Marcellus Wallace scene, or the scene with the needle with Uma Thurman, and I think he was trying to make a sort of a more mature type of film with Jackie Brown. And for me, the performances are the heart and soul of this movie. Much like with Pulp Fiction, Pulp Fiction definitely overtakes Jackie Brown in terms of story execution, but I really love the characters in Jackie Brown, and everybody bounces off each other perfectly. As far as Robert De Niro and Samuel L. Jackson, I love their scenes together, and of course Robert Forster and his scenes with Pam Grier are really the heart and soul of the film. And I love the whole sort of 70s vibe of the movie. Love the soundtrack. So yeah, Jackie Brown. Can't get enough of this film. So yeah, that is, let's see, number 17. Hopefully I'm on track. Uh, let's see, number 16. Yep. Yes, Never Let Go, Jack. I'll never let go. I'm not gonna lie. I saw this movie like 7 times when this came out in 97, 98. It going into 98 because it came out December 19th, I believe, of 1997. And Titanic was a big deal when it came out. Big, box office smash, a critically acclaimed film, and James Cameron couldn't do any wrong. After making movies like Aliens and Terminator 2 and The Abyss and True Lies, he had everyone's sort of attention. Whatever he would decide to come out with, people were going to go see it. So when he announced that he was going to make a movie about the Titanic, everyone was interested. And DiCaprio is great in this movie. This movie is very, epic. The way the story does the whole boat sinking in an hour, and sort of telling that story of the boat sinking sort of slow as possible, so that it still gives the characters enough time to do certain things before the boat finally comes to that moment where it finally splits. And I remember that moment in the theater being just very jaw dropping and really I mean, one of those moments that I'll never forget, actually watching this movie with a crowd, and just feeling that reaction with everyone. uh, the audience really was into this movie, watching this in the theater. And I watched this with multiple audiences. Like I said, I saw this 7 times. So, towards the end of its theatrical run, when I go back to see this movie with different people, I noticed the reactions sort of started to change a little bit. And the younger the audience, a little different the reaction was, because, uh, you know, later on in the run, as people went to go see this movie, it wasn't so much people sort of crying at the end, but people laughing uh, during scenes like people falling and shit like that. And so for some people, when the boat was sort of, capsizing, and, uh, people were falling and hitting propellers and for sort of spinning and shit, you heard a lot of laughs. And I can understand that, especially the way the CG was and everything. And back then, the CG was amazing. And I know now it hasn't aged as good, but for the most part, the performances are what keeps this film so great. And of course, excuse me, and of course, James Cameron's direction is pretty much perfect. So this movie has a very high rewatchability and is a really good story. So, Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio, they had really great chemistry in the movie that I think audiences just enjoyed, and to this day still enjoy. And yeah, that third act is a lot of fun once it starts to get rolling, because that's what we wanted to see for that first couple acts, first 2 hours. We wanted to see that iceberg hit, and then it happens, and then uh, the mayhem sort of begins. But at the same time, you feel that sense that you're watching something that really happened. So those people that do laugh, I mean, they can't help it, I guess. But I'm one of those people that I do think about how, yeah, these were real people. And so for the most part, I don't laugh. For the most part, I do feel bad watching everything go down. And then by the time it's over, yeah, I'm a little, sort of sad about it. But I'm also happy that Rose got to live her full life, and there is sort of a silver lining by the end of the film in that. So yeah, I love Titanic. It is one of my favorite 90s films, and always will be for those reasons. And plus, I love James Cameron. So that's going to be part one of this little top 25. Break it up, try to do a little, try to, think about y'all. So thank you very much for checking out this part one of my top 25 movies of the 1990s, and going to finish this pretty soon. Going to get you number 15 through 1 in a bit. So if you can hold off, appreciate you. Thank you very much. And still going to be doing the classic black and white movies as well. Got many of those coming very soon. So thank you very much for hearing me out. If you want to go ahead and put in the comment section some of your favorite 90s films, love to hear your top 5 or top 10 or top 3, however many you want to put in there. It's okay if our lists don't look the same. It's not supposed to. All film is subjective, and don't expect I don't expect mine to look anything like yours, of course. So just love to check your opinions out, because we're all into movies, and I think all geeks like to see what everyone's into, and I'm definitely one of those kind of geeks myself. So thank you very much. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and look out for the next one. Appreciate you very much, and God bless.